Alexander Isak transfer news. Liverpool set to sign striker from Newcastle in British record deal on deadline day. Liverpool set to complete deadline day move for Newcastle striker Alexander Isak after reaching an agreement that eclipses the £115 million Chelsea paid Brighton for Moises Caicedo 2 summers ago. Striker undergoing a medical on Monday ahead of signing a 6-year deal at Anfield. Liverpool will pay a fixed fee of £125 million for the striker, who is now expected to complete his move to Anfield on deadline day. Isak arrived at Liverpool's training ground on Monday morning for his medical, with Sweden head coach Jon Dahl Tomasson confirming he expects the player to then team up with the national team later on Monday evening. "I spoke to Alex yesterday, Sunday, and this Monday morning," said Tomasson. "We expect him here today." The deal for Isak eclipses the current British record of £115 million which Chelsea paid Brighton for Moises Caicedo in 2023. Liverpool had a bid of £110 million plus add-ons rejected for Isak at the start of August as Newcastle were unwilling to sell their star man, without certain conditions being met. Although Newcastle stressed they valued Isak at £150 million, that stance softened in recent weeks as Isak missed their opening games of the season and said, "The relationship can't continue. What will Newcastle do now?" Finding a successor to Isak was another key in Newcastle accepting Liverpool's offer for Isak. The club record signing of Nick Woltemade from Stuttgart for up to £69 million opened the door for Liverpool to make their move for Isak. Newcastle are also trying to sign a striker to replace Callum Wilson, who left on a free transfer upon the expiry of his contract at the end of last season, and have agreed a £55 million deal for Brentford's Jon Wissa. Isak is a different level. If Liverpool can get Mark Guéhi and Isak through the door, they're two starting players. Isak's one of the top centre-forwards in the world. He's a real player. He is the one player that I've seen give William Saliba, Gabriel and Virgil van Dijk a real hard time over this last couple of seasons. He's really caused them problems. He's a different level player. For Liverpool to be on 9 points, with the 2 games they've just had against Newcastle and Arsenal, with those 2 could be entering the building off the back of the international break, they'll be absolutely buzzing and confident as hell. Paul Merson slams ridiculous Liverpool after agreeing Alexander Isak transfer on deadline day. Paul Merson believes it is ridiculous that Liverpool have waited until the last minute to sign Alexander Isak from Newcastle. The forward is poised to move to Anfield in a huge £125 million transfer deal, which is a British record. Liverpool have spent the last few months actively pursuing Isak, especially after the departure of Darwin Núñez to Saudi Arabian side Al Hilal. They've finally landed their man, with the Sweden international set to be unveiled later today. Liverpool fans are excited over the Isak deal, with the 25-year-old having the potential to establish himself as a club legend at Anfield. Yet Merson, speaking on Sky Sports, believes it is ridiculous that Arne Slot's side have waited so long to get the deal done. Furthermore, the ex-Arsenal and Portsmouth star believes Slot has a selection dilemma on his hands. "The problem now is Slot's got decisions to make," he said. "If Hugo Ekitike comes in, Cody Gakpo won't play. If Gakpo goes out to the left, then Ekitike won't play. He's got a few problems coming up. For me, Dominic Szoboszlai plays. I know he's filled in at right back, but he'll have to come back into midfield. Didn't they win the league last year because their midfield was outstanding with Gravenberch, Mac Allister and Szoboszlai? All of a sudden, Florian Wirtz is in there, a £100 million player, and at the moment it isn't working. So he's got a lot of decisions to make. I just think, why don't they sort it for early doors instead of waiting until the last minute? It's ridiculous, really." Merson was then asked if the title race will be all but over if, as expected, Isak joins Liverpool. Slot's men have won their first 3 league fixtures against Bournemouth, Newcastle and Arsenal respectively. Yet Merson insists it will be tough for Liverpool to keep all their players happy, which could bode well for their rivals. "I like him, Alexander Isak. He's a good player, but I don't think it's all over just because he's signed," he continued. "I don't see it like that. The problem is Liverpool haven't played well, yet they've beaten Newcastle and Arsenal. That's the issue. They've not been at their best, but they've still got those results." Alexander Isak set for Liverpool transfer on deadline day with British record £125 million deal agreed. Liverpool are set to smash the British transfer record after striking a £125 million deal with Newcastle United for Alexander Isak. The agreement, finalized late on Sunday, will see the Sweden international undergo a medical at Anfield on Monday before signing a 6-year contract. The move will officially be completed on deadline day, giving Arne Slot's side the elite centre-forward they have pursued all summer. The initial £125 million fee eclipses Chelsea's £115 million signing of Moises Caicedo from Brighton in August 2023, making Isak the most expensive player in British football history. For Liverpool, it represents a significant financial gamble, but one they believe is justified for a striker who scored 23 Premier League goals last season and had become the focal point of Newcastle's attack. Negotiations between the clubs had dragged on for weeks. Liverpool initially offered £110 million plus add-ons at the beginning of August, but Newcastle flatly rejected the bid. Eddie Howe's side had been adamant that Isak was not for sale unless a valuation closer to £150 million was met. However, the dynamic shifted dramatically after the 25-year-old made clear his intention to leave. Isak refused to train with the first team and was omitted from Newcastle's opening fixtures of the season, a stance that increased pressure on the Magpies' hierarchy. Sky Sports say the striker told officials that he no longer saw his future at St James' Park and was determined to force through a move to Merseyside. Newcastle's willingness to compromise was also linked to their success in finding a replacement. Last week they broke their own transfer record by signing German forward Nick Woltmade from Stuttgart in a deal worth up to £69 million. That move effectively gave Liverpool the green light to return with their record-breaking offer. The Magpies are not finished in the market either. With Callum Wilson having departed on a free transfer at the end of last season, Howe is pushing for another addition in attack. Brentford's Jon Wissa and Wolves' Jorgen Strand-Larsen have both been subject to bids, although neither club has so far agreed to sell. For Liverpool, landing Isak is a statement of intent. Slot has long admired the Swede's blend of pace, movement, and finishing ability, and the expectation is that he will lead the line for years to come. His arrival could also ease the pressure on Hugo Ekitike, who has fared admirably since his arrival from Eintracht Frankfurt earlier this summer. Alexander Isak's solidarity payment explained with Liverpool to sign striker from Newcastle. Liverpool's record-breaking move for Alexander Isak has included an unusual twist, with Newcastle United confirming that part of the transfer package involves a solidarity payment, a system designed to reward the clubs who developed the striker during his formative years. The Reds agreed a staggering £125 million deal to bring Isak to Anfield in the early hours of Monday morning. Yet within that fee, around £5 million has been earmarked not for Newcastle, but for the clubs that shaped Isak between the ages of 12 and 23. The FIFA solidarity mechanism is designed to ensure that youth academies and smaller clubs are rewarded when a player they helped nurture secures a major transfer later in their career. In this case, AIK, Isak's boyhood club in Sweden, will receive a share of the pot, along with Willem II of the Netherlands, Borussia Dortmund in Germany, and Real Sociedad in Spain. Even Newcastle themselves, who signed him at 22, could be entitled to a portion. For Isak, the fee marks another dramatic step in a career that has already taken him across some of Europe's biggest leagues. He broke through at AIK in Stockholm before Borussia Dortmund snapped him up as a teenager. Game time was limited in Germany, leading to a loan at Willem II, where his goal-scoring instincts began to flourish. His big breakthrough came after joining Real Sociedad in 2019, where he scored 44 goals in 3 seasons. That form persuaded Newcastle to pay £63 million for him in 2022, a then club record signing. He quickly became a talisman at St James' Park, scoring 62 times in just 109 appearances. Last season alone, he netted 23 goals in 32 Premier League matches, one of the highest tallies in the division. Despite that prolific form, the 25-year-old's relationship with Newcastle soured this summer after he pushed for a move to Anfield. Liverpool had an initial bid of £110 million rejected in August, but Newcastle eventually relented after completing a big-money signing of their own, Stuttgart's Nick Woltmade, to fill the void. For Liverpool, the arrival of Isak represents a major statement of intent. Arne Slot has already overseen a refresh in midfield over the past year, but Isak is seen as the striker to spearhead their next era of success. Fans will hope he can replicate his ruthless finishing in red, particularly as the club look to challenge for the Premier League title and go deep in the Champions League. Speaking over the weekend, Newcastle boss Eddie Howe was asked about Isak. When asked about his preference for the forward, he replied, "Of course I have a preference. But ultimately you have got to look at all the information. I have a footballing preference, but then you have to take everything else into account. You can't just be oblivious to things that have happened. But I have no control over it. That's for other people to decide. I'm not in control of those discussions. I'm focusing on trying to bring new players into the team." Timeline of Isak saga. July 15th. Liverpool told Isak not for sale in this window after making informal approach to Newcastle, and decide to rival them for Hugo Ekitike instead after being rebuffed. July 19th. Eddie Howe reveals after pre-season friendly defeat at Celtic that Isak travelled with the rest of the squad to Glasgow, but he chose to send him home due to the speculation around him. July 23rd. Liverpool beat Newcastle to the signing of Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt after the North East club had already missed out on Liam Delap and João Pedro. July 24th. Isak is not included in Newcastle's squad for pre-season tour of Asia due to what Newcastle described as a minor thigh injury. July 24th. It later emerges that Isak has informed Newcastle he wants to explore his options in this transfer window. July 31st. Sky Sports News reports that Isak is training individually at former club Real Sociedad's facilities. August 1st. Newcastle reject an official bid from Liverpool for Isak worth £110 million plus add-ons. August 2nd. Newcastle make formal bid to RB Leipzig for Benjamin Sesko, worth nearly £70 million, and Isak later flies back to the northeast after his personal training camp in Spain. August 4th. The striker returns to Newcastle's training ground for the first time and has trained separately from his teammates ever since. August 4th. Newcastle upped their offer to RB Leipzig for Sesko amid interest from Manchester United. August 8th. Newcastle boss Eddie Howe says, "We would love the player to be with us," about Isak after he misses friendly win over Espanyol at St. James Park. August 9th. Manchester United beat Newcastle to the signing of Sesko despite their offer to RB Leipzig being lower. August 16th. Isak not included in Newcastle squad for Premier League season opener against Aston Villa, but Howe says door is well and truly open for a return. August 19th. Isak skips PFA awards and releases a statement on Instagram accusing Newcastle of broken promises, telling the club change is in the best interests of everyone. August 19th. Newcastle released a statement in response to Isak, denying that promises were made to allow Isak to leave and insisting they would welcome him back when he is ready to rejoin his teammates. August 28th. Newcastle agree a deal for Stuttgart striker Nick Woltmade, which opens the door for Isak to leave St. James Park. August 30th. Newcastle signed Nick Woltmade from Stuttgart in club record £69 million deal, opening the door for Liverpool to make their move for Isak. September 1st. Newcastle and Liverpool agree a £125 million deal over Isak.